before he came back to Judea and began a public ministry. You know, I don't know like the details of this because like I don't know how much of an area you could cover with what the types of transportation that they had to work with, donkeys or camels or whatever, whatever the common types of transportation were at the time. If you were walking, then I don't know how much area you could cover if you were walking. Because, we have traditions that say he visited India. We have traditions that say he visited parts of Asia, Japan, China, and so on and so forth. There's traditions that claim that he spent time in Tibet, So, were all of these areas accessible to ancient Semitic peoples? Jewish peoples 2,000 years ago. I don't know. I don't know. But if they were, I know they had their trade routes, and their trade routes were pretty extensive. So, So basically what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that I can't prove any of this one way. I can't prove it the other way. I can just open myself up to reasonable possibilities, sort of thing, So if this individual was the bright, highly enlightened individual that we are led to believe he was, there's nothing unreasonable to think that in the formative part of his life, before he became fully an adult, to begin the responsibilities of an adult in his culture, sort of thing, that he might have wanted to travel around and take in more of the world and learn and take in knowledge to better understand things himself, to be a better, more effective minister, teacher himself, there's I find no reason to be offended or think that that's sacrilegious, or like the way some religious extremists carry on when you present anything about Yeshua outside of the dogma of the religion. They get all huffy puffy and all the rest of it. But it's like, if you think about him as just from the physical material perspective, guys, as just an ordinary individual person of his time, people with great intellects, they have that way about them that they want to explore, and they want to take in things, and they want to absorb things and all the rest of it, sort of thing. It just seems to be a natural part of the mentality of someone like that, sort of thing. So why shouldn't we accept the possibility that Yeshua could have been very much like that as well? So if he had 3 or 4 other younger brothers, and they weren't so inclined to do what he was doing, there's no reason to think that one of his younger brothers couldn't have taken on his role within his family, to take on whatever responsibilities that he should have maybe taken on while he was going around doing all this sort of thing, I'm not sure at what point now his father passed away, but by the time he begins his public ministry, Joseph had already passed away, as far as I know. I think that what tradition passes down to us and all the rest of it, that by this point he had already passed away. Again, I have no idea the reasons beyond it, what caused the death and all the rest of it. So again, though, either one of his younger brothers could have stepped in and took over the father's role, and took on the responsibilities that Yeshua would have if he'd stayed home, and continued to look after the family and so on in his stead. Again, I don't know if that was culturally acceptable at this time. It seems possible to me, that they would have just allowed Yeshua to continue on doing this thing while they stayed back home and took care of the family and all the rest of it, took care of the mother and so on and so forth, So, so assuming that all of that is halfway correct there, guys, and assuming, let's say, that he was able to begin this traveling somewhere between 16, 17, 18 odd years of age. And let's say maybe he went to India first. Because I think that would have been an area that part of the world would have traded with extensively, and that would have been probably, and it's been a highly religious hub for thousands of years, and it probably would have been in his day as well. So that might have been one of the, it was the origins of the Jain religion, it's the origins of the Hindu religion, it's the origins of the Buddhist religion. Yeah. I'm not sure how many others may have been on the go when he was around, but I mean, and these religions would have already been quite old even by his time, and they probably would have already spread, the knowledge of them would have already spread throughout much of the known world, and the Levant and his part of the world, and Greek culture and Jewish culture and all the rest of it. So I would say that any learned individual of the time period would have been aware of these religions and aware of the teachings of them, sort of thing, And then, of course, we also have the influence of the ancient Egyptian mystery schools and all that sort of stuff, which played a huge part in ancient society. In this time period, Greek society, Roman society, I would also say Jewish society as well, sort of thing. There's a deeper connection between Jewish culture and ancient Egyptian culture than most of us today realize. And it probably would have been even stronger and more intact back in YESHUA's time than it is today. Because of course you didn't have the Islamic religion, so you would have had whatever existed in Egypt at that time, where this religion now has taken over, whatever schools of thought would have existed, so you would have probably had a remnant still of the ancient Egyptian religious belief system and the mystery schools and all the rest of it, very much intact at this period of time, that Yeshua also would have had, quite likely would have had a deep interest in wanting to explore and expose himself to and learn from, So there's every possibility that he may have spent some time in Egypt, ancient Egypt, for a while as well, And so all of these travels, guys, would have formed the man's mind, would have formed his understanding of religion, his understanding of spirituality, how it related to his religion of Judaism, sort of thing. And we're talking Judaism of 2,000 years ago too, guys. We're not even 100% certain. We'd have to talk to Jewish sources about this. I don't know how well even Jewish sources have kept records of all this sort of stuff. How much Judaism may have changed over the past 2,000 years from the way it was in his day, So, so all of this exploring around, guys, and checking the cultures of and teachings, religions of India and ancient Egypt, Persia, these places, the I always find it hard saying that one. Zoroastrian, I think I'm gonna pronounce it right. But you know what I'm saying, guys. That religion was still very much intact in Yeshua's time. It was still strong, still had a strong influence in many parts of the world at that time period. So he possibly would have had an interest in going to these places, Persia, and checking out the Zoroastrian religion and how it relates to his religion, sort of thing. And my sense of Yeshua, guys, from a non-religious perspective, my entire life was that this guy was a deep seeker of truth and enlightenment outside of religion, outside of the dogmas of religious structure, we'll say. And I can very easily see, guys, how those however many years it was, they took to explore all this and to take in all this knowledge and insight and so on, that I can so easily see how it would have formed the foundation for the kind of individual that he eventually developed into, that he could have had all of these sources of information to draw upon when he went back to Judea and began his own personal public ministry at 30 odd years of age, sort of thing. So so my feeling has always been that some people claim that Yeshua was a rabbi, a Jewish teacher in the I guess you would call the rabbinic tradition or whatever, if that existed in his day, and whatever consists of your knowledge of being a rabbi within that tradition. Again, though, I need to point out we're talking about Judaism of 2,000 years ago, and so they dress differently. Like there's a lot of basic things I guess the Jewish people have kept intact over the past 2,000 years, from the temple periods and from their expulsion from their land and all the rest of it. But what we are beginning to discover more and more, guys, is that the Judaism of Yeshua's time was far, far, far more rich and diverse than even the Judaism of today. And so, check on time right now, guys. So we're doing there. Okay. I think I'm doing pretty good this time. 47 minutes in, I think I've covered a halfway decent amount of ground here. Okay. I'm going to try to go more this within a 4-hour time frame, guys. If I go a little bit over, I go a little bit over. So be it. So, in some future videos, I think I will try to go a little more deeply into these claims about these various travels, the various areas that supposedly Yeshua traveled to, and weigh the pros and cons of that, and try to explore what he made, the types of knowledge he may have gained from spiritual insights and so on. He may have gained from exposing himself to those cultures and to those religions and all the rest of it, sort of thing. There has to be some reason, guys, why these traditions exist. You know, why there are those that claim that he was in China. There are those that claim that he spent time in Japan. Very, very strong tradition of him spending time in India, sort of thing. There has to be some reason for it. There has to be some reason why these claims exist, and these claims go back quite a ways, guys. I mean, they go back for virtually as long as Christianity itself has existed, as far as I know. You know, which indicates to me either Yeshua traveled to these places as these people claim, or there were very, very, very early missionaries that went into these areas that we aren't aware of today, that passed the knowledge of this individual on to these people that they recorded and then passed on down through their traditions and so on, that to the modern time. One or the other. I mean, one or the other, you know. So, but I've never had any problem of him doing this in his early life. Unless some Jewish source, I can get in contact with some Jewish source, authority, that can explain to me the culture of the time period, the Jewish culture of the time period, and what was accepted and what wasn't accepted. I mean, absolutely out of hand, accepted or not accepted. That can explain to me, you know, why this could never possibly be so. You know, until I get that, then I'm going to continue to go with the possibility, the very distinct possibility, that he did do a fair amount of traveling in his younger years, guys. Simple as that. As these claims make about him, sort of thing. So at some point, though, he did eventually go back to Judea, and so the line of thinking that I'm going in now, guys, the direction that I've been going in now, I would say, like, what I just expressed to you guys is something that I've been open to, like, for decades now, because I mean, I was pretty early on being aware of the fact that, I mean, through books I got at the library and all the rest of it, sort of thing. I mean, I've been aware for quite some time that claims of the travels that YESHUA made when he was a younger man. So none of that is really all that new to me at all, to be honest with you. And I have not yet heard a religious Christian extremist give me a good, clear explanation as to why this should not be possible. You know, they don't agree with it. They don't think that was ever done. They don't think he ever, but they can't explain why. It's what aggravates me about religious dogma of all sorts. They'll shove a perspective in your face, to the way that they were brainwashed to think, and they're completely incapable of explaining the logical reasoning behind the perspective. They would say that, well, he was the oldest one in the family. He had to stay home. He was trained to be a carpenter from his father. He needed to learn that trade. He needed to help his family with to keep them going and all the rest of it. And so he didn't have the time to go out gallivanting around all over the place. Blah 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 blah. And I mean, and that's conceivably be possible as well. Now, even more so if Yeshua was the only child. Or the only son. But within our own tradition itself, our own Christian tradition itself, it tells us that Yeshua had brothers and sisters. So, I mean, if he had brothers and sisters, then there's no reason to think that, as I said, that the younger brothers could not have taken on his role of providing for the family and helping their father out and all the rest of it, sort of thing, while he went off and did these explorations or whatever. Maybe they saw something in Yeshua of such a high value that they understood the importance